In Hollywood, where personalities often clash, and egos are just as large as the stars themselves, it's not uncommon for actors to have disagreements. But the story of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey takes the idea of tension on set to a whole new level. While both are incredibly talented, one actor couldn't stand the other more than anyone else he's ever worked with. And that actor was Jim Carrey. The surprising revelation of animosity came from none other than Carrey himself. The two stars worked together in the 1995 film Batman Forever, where Carrey portrayed the Riddler and Tommy Lee Jones played Two-Face. The film, directed by Joel Schumacher, had its share of wild moments on screen. But the behind-the-scenes drama was even more intense. It all began with the stark contrast between their personalities. Carrey, known for his energetic and often chaotic comedic style, was the polar opposite of Jones, who was known for his serious demeanor and no-nonsense attitude. Their styles didn't mesh, and it didn't take long for their differences to create tension on set. Carrey, being the over-the-top performer that he is, threw himself into the role of the Riddler with his usual enthusiasm and improvisational humor. He wasn't just playing a villain, he was embodying the very essence of chaos, delivering lines in his signature comedic fashion and bringing a level of energy that could only come from Jim Carrey himself. Unfortunately, this didn't sit well with Jones. While Carrey was doing his best to make the most of his role, Jones found himself increasingly frustrated by the antics of his co-star. The serious, methodical Jones took his craft very seriously, and Carrey's playful and unpredictable behavior was something he couldn't tolerate. In fact, it became so bad that Carrey recalls a particularly uncomfortable moment when Jones made his feelings known in no uncertain terms. One day on set, Carrey greeted Jones with his usual enthusiasm, trying to make small talk. But Jones's response was nothing short of chilling. The famously stoic actor looked at Carrey, dead in the eye, and said, "I cannot sanction your buffoonery." That single line summed up the entire tension between the two. Jones wasn't having any of Carrey's antics, and it became clear that their relationship would never be friendly. But Carrey wasn't the only one who felt the heat of Jones's disdain. The tension on set only grew as the film progressed, and soon, the atmosphere between the two stars became unbearable. While Carrey was baffled by the extreme reaction, Jones remained distant and cold, further deepening the rift. What was it about Carrey's presence that made Jones react so strongly? It turns out that Jones's dislike of Carrey wasn't just about personality clashes. It was more about his views on the profession. Jones was an actor who prided himself on his commitment to his roles, his preparation, and his seriousness when it came to his craft. For him, acting wasn't about jokes, pranks, or improvisation. It was a disciplined and focused profession. And Carrey, with his carefree bedge, larger-than-life energy, was the antithesis of everything Jones believed in when it came to acting. The tension only continued to rise, and Carrey was left perplexed by the situation. After all, he had never encountered such an intense reaction from a co-star before. The question that lingered in his mind, and perhaps the minds of many fans, was why. Why did Tommy Lee Jones hate him so much? Would they ever get past this? And what did this reveal about their contrasting approaches to acting? The story of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey is a strange and fascinating chapter in Hollywood history. And as it turns out, this animosity didn't just remain on the set of Batman Forever. Their complicated relationship would continue to be a point of discussion for years to come, leaving fans wondering just how two of the most iconic actors in Hollywood could be so fundamentally at odds with one another. The tension between Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey wasn't just a fleeting moment on set. It was something that would haunt both actors long after Batman Forever wrapped. For Carrey, the experience left a lasting impression, one that he reflected on in several interviews. Despite his typically positive outlook, Carrey couldn't help but feel hurt by the animosity. After all, he had always prided himself on being a light-hearted and positive presence on set, often trying to bring out the best in his co-stars with humor. But with Jones, things were different. Carrey tried to make amends, but it seemed like nothing would work. It became clear that no amount of humor or attempts at friendly gestures would break through Jones's tough exterior. For Carrey, this was an emotional blow, especially since he was used to working in environments where everyone got along, or at least respected each other. The conflict on set wasn't just about artistic differences, it was personal. The fallout between the two actors has often been described as one of the most intense feuds in Hollywood history. Carrey's approach to acting was an open book, spontaneous, unpredictable, and raw, while Jones's was all about control, discipline, and intense focus. These stark contrasts in their professional approach only made the conflict more explosive. In a 1997 interview with the New York Times, Carrey opened up about the friction with Jones, revealing just how deeply it affected him. "I tried to make it work," he admitted, "but he didn't want anything to do with me." For Carrey, the pain came from the fact that he genuinely respected Jones as an actor and admired his work. To be rejected so outright was a blow to his self-esteem. Carrey's version of events wasn't the only one that made headlines. Over the years, Jones's perspective on the situation remained far more guarded. He rarely spoke publicly about his feelings toward Carrey, but when he did, he never seemed to soften his stance. To him, Carrey's antics weren't just disruptive, they were a distraction from the craft of acting. Jones's serious, methodical approach to his roles was a stark contrast to Carrey's improvisational, comedic style. It's believed that this disparity in working styles only made Jones more frustrated. While the media and fans speculated endlessly about the feud, the actors continued with their careers, each moving on to more high-profile projects. Carrey went on to dominate the 1,990 seconds with films like Liar Liar and The Truman Show, showcasing his incredible range beyond comedy. Jones, on the other hand, continued to establish himself as one of Hollywood's top dramatic actors, earning critical acclaim for his roles in films like Men in Black and The Fugitive. Despite their differences, one thing is clear: the incident on Batman Forever marked a pivotal moment in both their careers. It forced Carrey to rethink how he worked with other actors and understand that not every co-star would be as open to his unique style. For Jones, the experience reinforced his belief that acting should be serious business, and anything that distracted from that focus was something to be avoided. Over time, it's clear that both actors have evolved. Carrey has become known for his more introspective and serious roles, as seen in The Truman Show and his later dramatic performances in films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Jones, for his part, continues to enjoy success in a variety of roles. Though he remains the same reserved and intensely private figure, he was back in the 1,990 seconds. Yet, despite their different paths and continued success, the question still lingers. What was it about Jim Carrey that made Tommy Lee Jones react so strongly? Was it just a clash of personalities? Or was there something deeper? Jones's dislike of Carrey became a part of Hollywood lore, a bizarre tale of two great actors who couldn't have been more different, yet somehow found themselves tied together by a film that would go down in history for more than just its on-screen spectacle. For Jim Carrey, the experience was a tough lesson in the realities of Hollywood, showing him that not everyone in the industry would be on the same page as him. But even in the face of adversity, Carrey's career flourished. And the incident with Jones, though painful, ultimately helped shape him into the actor he is today. One who understands that the world of film is not always about getting along, but about respecting each other's approach, even if they don't agree. The story of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey's time on Batman Forever will always remain one of the most famous feuds in Hollywood history, a testament to the sometimes harsh reality of what happens when two very different forces collide. The years that followed the Batman Forever debacle saw both Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey go on to solidify their places in Hollywood history. But the story of their feud continued to be a point of intrigue for fans and industry insiders alike. Even though the actors never fully reconciled in the public eye, their careers carried on, each finding success in their respective fields. Carrey's path forward was one of reinvention. After his notorious comedic roles in films like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and The Mask, Carrey began to embrace more dramatic parts that showcased a different side of his talent. His performance in The Truman Show, 1998, earned Haim a Golden Globe Award and marked a turning point in his career, proving he wasn't just a slapstick comedian, but a versatile actor capable of deep emotional work. In subsequent films, Carrey continued to move between comedy and drama, carving out a reputation as one of the most unpredictable and talented actors in the business. Despite the personal rift between Haim and Jones, Carrey has occasionally spoken about the lessons he learned from the experience. In a 2017 interview, Carrey commented on how working with actors who have different approaches can lead to personal growth, acknowledging that the tension with Jones was a humbling experience that taught Haim to be more considerate of others' working styles. He also spoke about how, over the years, he's learned to accept that not every actor would be on board with his comedic style, and that's just part of the business. As for Jones, he continued to be a Hollywood fixture in films that demanded gravitas and intensity, whether playing the stoic, no-nonsense federal agent in The Fugitive, 1993, or the quirky alien hunter in Men in Black, 1997. Jones solidified his reputation as a serious actor who didn't compromise on his work. Despite his long career of playing tough, emotionally complex roles, Jones rarely spoke about his relationship with Carrey or the Batman Forever experience. His interviews remained sparse, often avoiding topics that could bring up personal matters. This approach, in some ways, reflected his enduring desire to keep his private life just that private. However, despite their differences, both actors have always had a shared respect for the art of acting, even if they went about it in completely different ways. Over time, the public's perception of their feud softened, and many fans began to view it as a quirky, almost inevitable outcome of working with such differing personalities. It wasn't about personal animosity, but rather about two strong-willed actors who couldn't make their disparate styles work together on set. Interestingly, there were a few brief moments in later years where it seemed as though the two men might have a chance at reconciliation. During the press rounds for various films in the 2000s and beyond, Carrey occasionally referenced Jones in a somewhat nostalgic light, admitting that despite their rocky past, he harbored no ill will toward the actor. In fact, Carrey even spoke about how he admired Jones's dedication to his craft, and though they never worked together again, he still respected his legacy in the industry. Yet, Tommy Lee Jones remained characteristically tight-lipped on the matter. He never publicly acknowledged any change in his stance toward Carrey, nor did he ever give an interview that suggested he was willing to move past their differences. Whether he still held a grudge or had simply moved on without a second thought is something that remains a mystery. One thing is certain: Jones's stoic persona in real life mirrored the many serious, no-nonsense characters he played on screen. Despite the lack of direct reconciliation, one of the more ironic twists in the story came in 2012, when Jones starred in Men in Black 3, a film where he reprised his iconic role as Agent K. That same year, Carrey released The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, a comedy in which he played a magician. Fans couldn't help but wonder if, in some parallel universe, the two actors might have been able to reconcile in a way that didn't require a blockbuster film to bring them back together. But as time passed, it became clear that their paths in Hollywood were destined to remain separate, despite the potential for mutual respect. In the grand scheme of Hollywood, the feud between Jones and Carrey is just one of many stories of clashing personalities. It highlights the intense pressure that actors are under when making a film, especially when they come from different worlds. For Carrey, the experience undoubtedly shaped him into a more self-aware, reflective actor. He learned that not everyone would share his free-spirited approach to work, and sometimes that difference can create friction. For Jones, the entire ordeal seemed to reaffirm his own principles about acting and professionalism. He had no tolerance for what he considered distractions, and Carrey's flamboyance simply didn't fit into his world. Ultimately, the story of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey is a testament to the unpredictability of working in Hollywood. It's a reminder that two highly talented individuals can clash due to something as simple as a difference in working styles. Though they never became close friends, the impact of their teaming together on Batman Forever left an indelible mark on both men. And in the end, the world still remembers their unforgettable performances in the film. Despite the backstage drama that overshadowed their relationship, as fans reflect on this odd chapter in Hollywood history, they're left with the question: could there ever have been a scenario where these two actors could have found common ground? Perhaps, but the truth is, the world may never know for sure. What remains is a fascinating story of Hollywood tensions, clashes, and the personalities that make the industry as unpredictable as ever. The saga of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey's strained relationship on Batman Forever remains one of the most talked-about stories in Hollywood. While the two stars never publicly reconciled, the passage of time allowed them to reflect on the incident, albeit from different perspectives. For Carrey, the entire episode served as a learning experience, while for Jones, it seemed to have reinforced his philosophy of professionalism, where personal differences were irrelevant to his commitment to the craft. As the years went by, the public largely moved on from the feud, with both actors continuing to build their careers. Carrey's move into more serious roles solidified his place as one of Hollywood's most versatile actors, while Jones's iconic portrayal of complex characters like Agent K in Men in Black and the driven, stoic U as Lev Marshall in The Fugitive continued to define his career. Yet, in the back of the minds of fans and industry insiders, there remained an unspoken question: would they ever have the chance to work together again? The possibility of a reunion between Carrey and Jones seemed almost impossible, given the history between them. However, Hollywood is a place of unexpected comebacks, and in recent years, the landscape of the industry has shifted. The demand for reunions and revisiting iconic duos has grown. with fans clamoring for actors to bury the hatchet and come together for another film. This has prompted some to wonder if a Batman Forever reunion or collaboration might ever happen. While it seems highly unlikely that Carrey and Jones would ever rekindle their on-screen partnership, the nature of their relationship has taken on a somewhat mythic quality in Hollywood. It has become one of those rare stories of how two talented individuals, seemingly polar opposites, were brought together by a film that highlighted their stark differences. Yet, it wasn't just their differences that made the story so compelling. It was the underlying reminder that, in a world of glamour and fame, personal friction is sometimes the price that comes with working on a high-pressure set. Even though Carrey and Jones never made amends publicly, both men have continued to speak about each other in interviews, though in different ways. Carrey has occasionally addressed the feud with humor, making light of the situation and even laughing at the absurdity of it all. He's been open about the fact that, while he may not have understood Jones's anger at the teammate, he respects the actor's methodical approach to his work. He's come to realize that the clash of personalities wasn't necessarily personal. It was just two actors with different ways of doing things. Carrey has matured in the years since Batman Forever, becoming a more introspective and philosophical person. In interviews, he has openly discussed his spiritual journey and how it has led him to a place of greater understanding and peace. For Jones, however, the topic is often avoided or given a brief, no-nonsense response. It's clear that, for him, the past remains firmly in the past, and he has little interest in revisiting the controversy. Jones's famously private nature only adds to the mystique surrounding his stance on the issue. To Chaim, Carrey's behavior may have been an interruption to his work, but he likely never saw the need to publicly hash out old grievances or discuss them in the media. As Team A passed, the controversy surrounding their feud grew smaller in the public's eyes. It became a fascinating footnote in the careers of two legendary actors who, despite their personal differences, continued to shine in their respective fields. But there's no doubt that Batman Forever and their clash on set will always be a part of Hollywood lore, a reminder of how even the biggest stars can struggle with the pressure and personalities that come with working in the film industry. For Carrey, the experience ultimately became a catalyst for growth. In his later years, he's become known not only for his acting, but also for his philosophical musings and his role as a motivational speaker. Carrey's life has been a fascinating journey, from comedic performances to a deeper exploration of the self. His teammate with Jones on Batman Forever was just one small chapter in that larger story, but it had a lasting impact on his outlook on the world. For Jones, the incident with Carrey didn't change his trajectory. He continued to excel in his career, choosing roles that challenged his range and earned Chaim the respect of his peers. And while his personal feelings about Carrey may have never softened, Jones's career remained defined by his fierce dedication to the craft of acting, his refusal to compromise, and his unwavering focus. In a way, the feud between Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey is a reminder that, in Hollywood, things aren't always as glamorous as they seem. Behind the scenes, actors are human too, and sometimes their personalities don't align in the way they hope. The story of their time together on Batman Forever will always be remembered as one of the most interesting and surprising stories from the set of a major Hollywood film. Though they may never be friends, the legacy of their collaboration is a testament to how complex and unpredictable the world of acting can be. As time moves forward, the actors continue on their respective paths, leaving behind a fascinating story of rivalry, respect, and the stark differences that make Hollywood what it is. a place where anything is possible, even if it involves a few uncomfortable moments along the way. Though their time together on Batman Forever remains a poignant chapter in both Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey's careers, the impact of their relationship continued to echo throughout their lives. Both actors, having faced such a public and personal conflict, found ways to grow and evolve in the years that followed. But the story didn't end with their final days on set. For Carrey, the feud with Jones became a part of his public persona, adding to the colorful narrative of his career. It was a moment that reflected the tension between his desire for freedom and joy in his work versus Jones's rigid, controlled professionalism. Jim Carrey had built his career on comedic freedom, pushing boundaries and breaking out of traditional molds. In contrast, Jones embodied a no-nonsense attitude, dedicated to a craft that demanded precision and focus. Their clash was an embodiment of two opposing forces in acting, and Hollywood's deeply human element was laid bare. Interestingly, in the years following their fallout, Carrey began to use his past experiences, including his conflict with Jones, as a reflection on the nature of relationships and personal growth. In interviews, Carrey was candid about his feelings and how he approached conflict in his personal life. He became less concerned with others' opinions and more focused on his own journey of self-discovery. This shift in mindset played a major role in the way he approached his work, and fans saw this evolution in his later roles, particularly in movies like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, 2004, and The Truman Show, 1998, where he portrayed characters caught in deeply introspective moments. Jones, for his part, continued to remain steadfast in his approach to acting and life. He avoided public discussions about his personal feelings toward Carrey, staying true to his personality, private and focused on his craft. While Carrey openly reflected on their history and used it to learn and grow, Jones kept a tight lid on anything that could stir up past wounds. This difference in their approaches to personal conflict spoke volumes about who they were as individuals, and how differently they chose to navigate the often turbulent world of Hollywood. Over time, the narrative of their feud began to fade into Hollywood folklore. While it remained a fascinating anecdote for fans and the media, both actors continued to add new chapters to their careers, cementing their places in the pantheon of greats in their respective genres. Carrey, with his ongoing exploration of dramatic roles, and Jones, with his continued portrayal of tough, often emotionally complex characters, both showed the world that despite their differences, their artistry was undeniable. In the grand tapestry of their careers, it's clear that the conflict between Carrey and Jones was just a small part of a much larger story. And while the personal feud may never have fully healed, it became less significant in comparison to the legacies each actor created over time. Their story became one of contrasts between comedic freedom and dramatic discipline, between public vulnerability and reserved privacy, and how, despite these differences, both were able to shape Hollywood in their own ways. In a way, the conflict on the set of Batman Forever gave us more insight into the complexity of the two men than any of their films ever could. It demonstrated that behind the high-profile roles and iconic characters they portrayed, there were real emotions, clashes, and personal growth. For Carrey, the incident with Jones was a lesson in navigating difficult relationships, something that would later be explored more deeply in his life as he sought balance between fame and self-awareness. For Jones, it was simply another reminder of why he held his boundaries so firmly, both in his professional life and personal interactions. As for the possibility of them working together again, fans can only dream. In Hollywood, anything is possible. But the chance of Jones and Carrey sharing the screen in a meaningful way seems unlikely. Still, there's a part of fans that will forever wonder what could have been if their personalities had aligned. Could they have created something even more magical if they had found a way to work together? Or was the friction between them what gave their respective careers the unique edge they both needed to stand out? In the end, the story of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey is one of personal growth, professional challenges, and the delicate balance between artistic collaboration and individual vision. It serves as a reminder that sometimes even the most talented actors can clash. It's not always about who's right or wrong. It's about the journey and what we learn from the experience. For fans, their Team A on Batman Forever is unforgettable, both for the performances they gave on screen and the fascinating story behind the scenes. Whether or not the two ever reconciled is a question left unanswered, but their legacies are firmly intact. Jones and Carrey may never have become close, but their story, in its raw and unpolished form, is a testament to the unpredictable nature of Hollywood and the power of two great actors who, despite their differences, still found a way to leave an indelible mark on the world of film. As the years have passed, the saga of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey continues to stand as a fascinating tale of contrasts, clashes, and personal reflection. Despite the friction between them during Batman Forever, the incident eventually became a part of the greater tapestry of their lives. No longer something that defined them, but something that offered insight into the unpredictable world of acting and the personalities that inhabit it. By now, both actors have long since moved on to other projects, but the story of their teammate together on Batman Forever has endured. It has become one of Hollywood's great tales of off-screen drama, particularly for the stark differences between two actors who, on paper, should have had nothing but respect for one another's talents. What made it so compelling to fans and critics alike wasn't just the clash of personalities, but how the incident revealed the tension between the art of acting and the personal dynamics that can sometimes disrupt it. For Carrey, his team with Jones was a learning curve that reshaped his approach to acting and working with other talent. Over the years, he's used this experience to fuel his personal growth, understanding that in an industry like Hollywood, not every co-star would embrace his unique brand of comedy and improvisation. In interviews, Carrey has acknowledged that the confrontation with Jones was an emotional setback, but it ultimately helped him grow into a more grounded actor, capable of handling difficult relationships in the industry. His shift from manic, over-the-top performances to more subtle, dramatic roles in films like The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind showcased not only his range, but his ability to evolve as an artist. In contrast, Tommy Lee Jones never seemed to need such a transformation. His approach to acting remained consistent throughout his career, controlled, reserved, and intense. He didn't share much about the Batman Forever experience, preferring to let his work speak for itself. Jones's consistency in his craft served as a reminder that, for some, the pursuit of excellence in acting comes at the expense of personal relationships. He may not have warmed to Carrey's energy, but that didn't detract from his commitment to his roles or the performances that made him a household name. As time passed, it seemed that Jones and Carrey both found peace in their own ways. While Carrey became known not just for his comedy, but for his candidness and emotional depth in interviews, Jones remained his stoic self. The two actors did not cross paths again in a professional capacity, and while some fans may have hoped for a reunion, it became clear that their paths in Hollywood were likely destined to remain separate. However, It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that their experiences could lead to a future collaboration, though unlikely. Hollywood is known for bringing back old co-stars and bridging past conflicts. Many have speculated about whether, in an ideal scenario, the two actors could overcome their differences for a more nuanced, reflective project. While Jones may not be the type to actively pursue reconciliation, Carrey's willingness to reflect on the past and find growth in challenging relationships leaves a slight glimmer of hope that, one day, these two could have a conversation that wasn't colored by tension. In the end, the story of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey's time on Batman Forever remains one of Hollywood's most intriguing, not because it ended in violence or animosity, but because it offered a deeper look into the complexities of working relationships and personal dynamics. The industry is filled with larger-than-life egos, but it's these kinds of stories, where personality clashes take center stage, that truly highlight the sometimes awkward, often unpredictable nature of working in film. As fans, we are left to reflect on the impact that such conflicts can have on the work. Despite the personal tension, both actors delivered iconic performances in Batman Forever, with Carrey's wild energy as the Riddler and Jones's quiet menace as Two-Face. The final product was one of a quirky, colorful film, a blend of chaos and order, a fitting metaphor for the relationship between its two stars. The film became a cult classic, and while it may not have been the last team we saw, Carrey and Jones on screen together, it was certainly the most memorable. Not just because of the performances, but because of the stories behind them. Ultimately, the saga of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey reminds us that in Hollywood, sometimes the most significant stories are those that take place behind the scenes. The tension between these two actors may have caused friction, but it also led to a greater understanding of what it means to be an artist in a world that often values egos as much as it does talent. Even if their relationship remained strained, both Jones and Carrey left behind legacies that stand as testaments to their unique approaches to acting, proving that sometimes conflict is just as integral to a story as collaboration. Now, as we look back on their time together, we can appreciate how their journey, however turbulent, helped shape their careers and gave us one of Hollywood's most enduring behind-the-scenes stories. And while the question of whether they'll ever work together again may never be answered, their tale will undoubtedly remain one of the most fascinating chapters in the history of film. As the years pass, the story of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey's infamous clash on the set of Batman Forever has continued to live on, both in Hollywood legend and among fans of both actors. The incident, though a brief chapter in their careers, has sparked countless discussions about the nature of Hollywood, the different personalities that inhabit the industry, and how actors with vastly contrasting approaches to their craft can sometimes create drama that echoes far beyond the set. But even as this story becomes increasingly woven into the fabric of Hollywood's collective history, there's still a lingering curiosity about the aftermath of their feud. How did it affect their professional paths going forward? Did the friction with Jones shape Carrey in ways that led to his later success in dramatic roles? And what about Jones? Was his strict, no-nonsense approach simply a reflection of his personality, or was it indicative of a deeper philosophy about his craft? For Carrey, the experience with Jones remained a source of reflection. Over the years, he has become more open about his own growth and evolution as an actor. After the Batman Forever fallout, Carrey began to push the boundaries of his work in unexpected ways. His transition from slapstick comedy to serious, nuanced performances in films like The Truman Show, 1998, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, 2004, showed the world that his talent went far beyond the zany characters he became known for. Though it's clear that his experience with Jones left its mark, it also sparked a realization that he needed to evolve to connect with his audience on a deeper level. Carrey would go on to embrace a more introspective, philosophical approach to life and art. The tension with Jones served as a learning experience for Carrey. He's often mentioned how important it was to embrace personal growth, not just in his professional life, but in his interpersonal relationships as well. His public reflections about his spiritual journey and his shift away from pursuing only comedy showed that Carrey was processing not just the challenges of working with Jones, but the greater challenges of Hollywood itself, where egos often clash and the pressure to succeed can sometimes be overwhelming. On the flip side, Tommy Lee Jones remained steadfast in his approach. His calm, controlled demeanor is still the hallmark of his acting style. Jones's reluctance to discuss his personal feelings about Carrey or their teammate on Batman Forever was very much in line with his public persona, reserved, private, and focused solely on his craft. Unlike Carrey, who often engages in self-examination and public reflection, Jones has never felt the need to explain or apologize for his behavior. It's almost as if, for him, the past is something to be left behind, and all that matters is the work he does moving forward. His continued success in serious roles, coupled with his refusal to engage in the media circus that surrounds Hollywood, has only solidified his reputation as a figure who values his work over his public eye image. Despite their differences, it's hard to ignore the fact that both Carrey and Jones are incredible talents who've left a lasting eye impact on Hollywood. While Carrey used his team with Jones as a stepping stone for personal and professional growth, Jones kept his focus on the roles that demanded his disciplined approach, earning respect in the industry for his performances in everything from The Fugitive, 1993, to No Country for Old Men, 2007. Their relationship remains a classic example of how two vastly different personalities can come together in one film and create a spectacle, both on-screen and behind the scenes. The drama that unfolded during Batman Forever could have derailed the movie, but it didn't. Instead, it added another layer to the legacy of both actors and the film itself. Their clash wasn't just a brief moment of tension. It became an integral part of the story of Batman Forever. An unforgettable snapshot of how Hollywood can sometimes function like a pressure cooker for egos and artistic differences. As the decades have passed, fans have continued to be fascinated by the story. For some, it's a reminder of the struggles and complexities that come with being a professional actor in an industry where creative control, personality, and egos can clash with dramatic consequences. For others, it's simply a piece of Hollywood trivia, a curiosity that shows that even the most iconic actors have their moments of discomfort and tension. What remains clear, however, is that both Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey continue to be two of the most respected and beloved figures in Hollywood, each having navigated their own paths to success in ways that are uniquely their own. The conflict between them on the set of Batman Forever may never be fully understood or resolved, but it is a testament to the unpredictable nature of Hollywood and how, sometimes, conflict can turn into lasting history. Their individual legacies stand tall, defined by more than just their teammate working together. Whether or not they ever resolve their differences is less important than the impact they've had on their audiences, and how they've shaped the world of film in their own distinct ways. For now, fans can only speculate about what might have been if Carrey and Jones had worked together again. But what we do know is that their teammate on Batman Forever left an indelible mark, not just on the film itself, but on the way Hollywood stories are told, both the ones on the screen and the ones behind it.